Hi, Tammy.
Hey, Nate, how you doing today?
Not too bad. Are you familiar with Rage Against the Machine, the band?
Yes, I
I
am.
don't know why, but I catch a Rage Against the Machine vibe right as
Yeah,
our intro music is hitting that peak.
right. I love that kind of music.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. How you doing tonight, Tammy?
Well, as you can tell, my hair is, maybe you can't tell, my hair is wet. When I got
Oh,
home from work,
terrible.
I immediately had to go take a shower. I had to play plumber tonight or this afternoon.
Uh,
Somebody had dropped their ear pods in the toilet as it was flushing, and it goes down, and then there's that little loop up, loop down, and it got caught in there, and we were thinking if we can get the toilet emptied and tipped over, maybe we could pull them out. um so Mary went to go to Home Depot to get some new thing for the toilet before we did all that, and we didn't put a sign on the door. So in comes one of the delivery semi truck drivers who delivers some of our stuff, and I'm typing a message to our sales guy, and I told the truck driver, "Hey, I'll be right with you." I look down and I'm typing, and all of a sudden I hear the door to the bathroom close, and I'm like, "No!" And yeah, he took a poop, and I had to clean that out.
did
It was down in the thing, and it was disgusting. So I'm draining the water out. Then we get the shop vac to suck the little bit of water left in, and all of a sudden, whoop! I felt a chunk of the poop go through the hose.
uh,
Mary's in there with me, and I'm like, "Oh my god! Oh my god!" And I just, not like I got poop or water or anything all over me. I just felt gross.
there are
So,
like I am, as you'll probably guess, very much a DIY type person. I've
mhm.
done plumbing stuff, I've done home handyman stuff. There are certain things that I pay a professional for, and toilet work is one of
Yeah.
them.
Well,
Anything toilet or sewer related goes to a professional because I don't want to deal with it.
and Mary is totally hands-on with everything, but we weren't expecting for the truck driver to come in and poop in the
Yeah,
toilet,
it definitely
and
would have been much more manageable had that not
yeah.
happened.
So, we got the toilet off, and we're like, "Yeah, we're not getting these suckers out, so we have to go buy a new toilet tomorrow."
Oh, so they're like jammed in there.
Yeah. So
Um, I had a very similar issue with a little doll from one of my kids' dolls when they were little, and it
they
wasn't
like
even one of them that did it. It was like a friend they had over, and this kid was
Uh-huh.
just obsessed with like sending things down the toilet.
Yep.
Yep.
And sometimes you can't get those things out because the
Yeah.
way it does that
Yep.
little
I managed to
S.
get it out, but it was like I
Gross.
did not want to do this after I got home from work
Yeah.
today.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and just real quick, I know we talk a lot. We should call ourselves the AI podcast because we seem to talk about AI a lot on this show. But so Instagram now has a new thing. When you do your stories, you can I forget. I think you do stories, and then there's a little square button, and you can click on that, and you can touch part of the picture, and it will cut it out.
Oh.
And then you can put a background down it. So there's a thumbnail of me holding up a broken winch line for my fast fid winch, how to fix a winch line video. And I'm like going, I broke my winch line. And I'm sitting there crisscross applesauce style. And I said, put me on a raft in the ocean where I'm doing that. And so it's posted on my Facebook page. Whoever follows me, it's posted. I'll share it on the Off Road Insiders Facebook page too. But man, normally you would have to do that in Photoshop, and that would have
Uh-huh.
taken you forever to do. Now, just click, 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 boom, and there you go. You don't even have to draw around the picture and
Yeah.
layer and all that stuff. It's like,
Well, I mean, yeah, as you might expect, Photoshop has kept up with the times as well, and it also has AI
oh,
that'll
it,
let you like
oh, it
select the
does.
foreground. It'll be like,
Uh-huh.
figure out what the subject of the picture is and pull it out, and it can
Right.
do it. So yeah, the tools are there too. But
Crazy.
but it is crazy that you can just like pop open your Instagram app and do that now.
No, I know. Anyway, I know that has nothing to do with off-roading, but you could
Look, I mean, what has more to do with off-roading than Instagram?
well, yeah, but that's where I met a lot of my Jeep people on
Yeah,
social
right?
media.
Social media.
So, anyway, how about you? I know
Crazy.
you are doing Jeep stuff.
Not exactly. It's been a crazy couple of weeks with the holidays, of course, coming up. But I had 2 separate weeks of travel that were only a week apart for work. Which, whatever, it is what it is. One of them was kind of a surprise thing. They wanted to have a team meeting before the end of the year, before budgets reset and stuff. 'Cause they
Mhm.
had money left over. So it was like, hey, let's all get together in the middle of December. I'm like, but I'm going to Vegas at the end of or the beginning of December. I'd really rather not travel so soon together, but it's the only time we can do it. Okay. So yeah, that's why I've been kind of crazy. So Tammy, thank you for keeping track of things like getting the last week's show together, because I was too busy like doing all kinds of crap, and then I was sick in the middle, right?
Yeah. It seems like everybody's getting sick with,
Yeah, well, I got sick because I was surrounded by 60,000 people at a conference, right? There was
yeah.
really no chance I was not going to get sick at that conference. So, but yeah. But aside from that, I've been waiting for a very long time for my YouTube channel to hit 5,000 subscribers. You remember when you and the Bearded Jeeper were competing for
Yeah.
5,000, the onion thing? That felt like so long ago.
I think that
That's like
was
3 years ago
3
now, isn't it?
yeah, I think it was it 3,000? It
I
was
think
just right after, YouTube changed their policy about you had to have 1,000 subscribers.
yeah. Yeah. But I think you
Um,
2 were at 5 because I
was it
remember it was
5?
like a big
Okay.
deal.
And
But
he hit 5,000 first, but then he dropped under 5,000. He lost a couple.
yeah.
So technically he won first, but then I went over 5,000 than he did for the second time. So
Yeah.
I had to bite into an onion.
Yeah, and then
So
you just like fried it up in a frying pan, if I remember correctly.
probably I could have, yeah. Um, but an onion is, if I can do an onion, I can eat just about anything, which I forgot to tell you this last night. I tried Rocky Mountain oysters for the first time.
I think I saw that on one of your
Yeah.
social channels.
Yeah, it's
I'm like,
unreal.
"Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, more
None
power to you, Tammy."
none of the guys could do it. They're like, "Whoa, whoa," but
I I would believe it.
yeah.
That's the best I can say. I would believe it.
So
So yeah, I finally hit 5,000.
that's awesome.
I actually missed it. It happened, I think, while I was in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe while I was sick. I don't know, but I hit 5,000. So I'm happy about that. I've kind of petered off on the YouTube stuff. I want to get back to it, but just things have been too
It
too busy.
it's like a job. It really is to
I've
keep
like
up with it.
I have like 8 million hours of footage to try to get through for the lift kit and other stuff that I did. I wanted to try to do it
Mhm.
in one video, and I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Every time I sit down
Right.
to edit it, I start going through the footage and I just feel so overwhelmed. It's like,
It is. It
there's
can
just so
be
much because I filmed it over the course of like 2 months, which makes it even harder to put it all back together in a way that feels cohesive and that I think people are
right.
actually going to want to watch.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to drag everybody into my video editing problems, but and remember in September, I think it was, when I got the Jeep stuck and then we had a show like the next Monday. Remember I
Mhm.
winched myself out up at AOAA and I said my
Mhm.
arm hurt. My arm
Would
still
you
hurts.
Oh dear. Is it
So
a
I've
pinched nerve?
so finally, like I think it was it was in the week between the Vegas trip and the North Carolina trip. I finally went to an orthopedic specialist to be like, look, my arm hurts
Oh.
and it's hurt for like 3 months now. And I feel like this is probably not a thing I'm just going to recover from on my own like I normally do. So I'm going in for an MRI like next week. But they're like,
Oh,
well, one, I've never had an MRI before. And
you haven't.
They asked me a question on the thing before. Have you ever had metal in your eyes? And most people are going to be like, what? No. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, lots of times. What does that mean? Oh, you could go blind. Oh. So now I have to have an x-ray of my eyes done to make sure there's no metal in them.
Really?
Yeah.
They never asked me if I had metal in my eyes.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
maybe they did. I just don't remember.
yeah. So
Yeah, I had to
metal.
do an MRI when I had a hurt shoulder too.
Yeah,
It's
I had one incident that I can recall where I had a pretty nasty shard of metal in my eye. We were able to get it out at home, so it's not like I had to go to the optometrist or anything. But it does make me wonder, like, is there still a fragment in there?
right.
Your eyes are one of those things where there's no nerve endings in the eye, so if there's a metal fragment in there, I may not know it.
That's creepy.
Yeah, so
Ooh.
I have to get an X-ray of my eyes done sometime this week. So that should be fun.
Well, at least
So
they're not shoving a needle in your eye and you have to sit and watch them do it.
well, maybe if there's metal in there, they will. I don't know. I don't know what
Oh,
happens. Like,
knock
what's the
on
next
wood.
step?
Yeah.
If they find metal in my eye, it sounds like a thing they're going to want to deal with.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
scary.
yeah, yeah. So that's fun.
And are you working on a little project?
Yeah, I do. I do have one project. It is steel and welder and plasma cutter related, but it's not for the Jeep.
Oh, well,
I'm
maybe you
actually
should wait till after your
well, no,
MRI.
no. I wanted to get all the metalworking stuff done before the
Oh,
X-ray.
yes. Yes.
So I got that all done today. I'm gonna try to get the X-ray tomorrow.
That's
But
funny.
now I'm much better about protecting my face now than I ever was before, ever since that incident, right?
Mhm.
So I have not had a single incident with metal on my face or eyes since then. But that incident, it was a couple years ago now, is the one that has me concerned. But I'm actually building like a shelf for this desk that I'm standing at right now,
Oh, okay.
and I had to make brackets to hold the shelf up. And I had some spare tube laying around from when I first got the affordable bender and I made my first bends with it.
Mhm.
So I cut sections of the test bend and they're going to be like this swooping like arm that's going to hold the shelf up. So that's what I'm working on. It's way overbuilt for holding up a desk shelf.
I was gonna say, could you just go to Walmart and get one
Probably
of those?
probably could.
Yep.
But in true Nate fashion, I'm overdoing it.
Right. Of
So
course.
should be should be good though once it's all done. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. It's in the garage with my Jeep, so I guess you could call it Jeep related. I'm spending quality time with the Jeep.
There you go. The Jeep's helping you. Every time after we chat, we always let you guys know where you can email us or where you can find us on Instagram or our website, offroadinsiders.com. But you can also email us at offroadinsiders@gmail.com. And we
Great.
got our second email, I think. Our first one was from videos, and now we
Yeah.
have this
Yeah,
one's
we got
all
one.
the way from Australia.
Cool.
And
Is it all upside down? Does it swirl the wrong way?
yeah, it does. It is kind of confusing because, folks in Australia have different words that, we don't
But
know what they mean.
I'd argue they're cooler
Um,
words.
yeah, they are. But Jimmy Mack, he's been one of my longtime social media friends, but he started listening to the podcast and he says, yes, the elusive Jimmy Mack dropping a line about the Aussie market. This must have been after we did the episode on off-road, the top off-road vehicles, I
Oh,
believe.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said
That makes sense.
over here, Ranger and Hilux, right? Did I pronounce it?
Hilux.
Hilux
Yeah.
basically rule supreme in sales. Lesser manufacturers are coming into the market, but the Toyota Land Cruiser is basically considered the pinnacle of yuppiness. And
Interesting.
then, yeah, he was talking about modifications, and Australia, he says, is probably the strictest in the world. And I seem to remember that. It sounds like you cannot go over 2 inches of lift
Police
and
basically.
2 inches on tires without a plate. I think you need a specialized like license plate in Queensland.
Okay.
Over 2 inches. Police basically ignore the mod plate because the engineering certificate don't factor in stability control. I'm not exactly sure what he means by that, but maybe the police just ignore the plate and still give you a ticket. Maybe I think that's what
Yeah,
he's saying.
that's kind of what it sounds like he's saying.
Yeah. And he loved our episode of cold camping. It's
It's just a way for
Overlanders,
insurance to avoid paying out. Yeah, that sounds about like the U.S.
right? Um, but he loves cold. He loved our episode on cold camping. Overlanding is big. They're in Australia,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
he was sharing. He shared some pictures. Maybe I'll put them up in our Facebook page. The little tent he sleeps in. It's like a little sleeping bag type tent. They
I've seen
call it.
those.
Yeah, they call it swag. Um, but it's not cold there. It doesn't get cold. So when you're in survival mode in Australia, it's more for the wildlife.
Yeah.
The snakes, the spiders, the crocs, the birds,
Yeah.
dumb people. He called them durangos. Um, and I'm sure they have the dingoes and the kangaroos. I don't know if they're dangerous, but Australia has one of the most. It's the continent for the most dangerous animals, wildlife in the world. So
Well, that's there's that joke that everything in Australia wants to kill you.
yeah,
So, I'm sure it's at least kind of based in truth. I mean, I read it
yeah,
on the internet. That must mean it's
it's
true,
true.
right?
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Jimmy Mack. We will catch you later too. He goes, okay, guys, hooroo, ciao, and catch up later. So
Hooroo.
thank
Yeah.
you for
We
I
should we should make it a point to have somebody from Australia on the podcast just so that it lends some class to the show.
right. I have a real hard time understanding because the vocabulary they use is just a tad different than here in the States, but it
I've
sounds
seen
really
Crocodile
cool.
Dundee like a million times. I'm sure it'll be fine.
You can translate.
I'm sure that's totally a accurate representation of Australian life.
So, well, thank you, Jimmy Mack. We appreciate you reaching out to us. And yeah, it's like 90 degrees, 97 degrees over there right now with huge humidity because they're the opposite of us. So when it's winter here, it's summer
Yeah,
there. So,
Outback Steakhouse too. I eat there a lot.
yeah.
I once read, and I'm going to try not to derail too much, but I once read that Outback Steakhouse here in the U.S. You know how like their ad campaigns are all like how Australian they are.
Right.
The chain was started by a dude in Florida right after the Crocodile Dundee movies were so popular, solely to cash in on the Australian like vibe.
Right. Yeah, because some of the things on the menu is the Queensland chicken, the Aussie
There's like
fries.
there's like nothing Australian about the chain
Right.
other than the name.
Oh well.
Yeah,
Marketing.
marketing is king, right?
Right, right.
But they do still make a good steak. I mean, not like crazy high quality steak, but
Right.
for like go out for a night out steak,
Like
it's
a
not bad.
franchise. Yeah, they're pretty
Yeah,
good.
not bad.
Yep. All right, the main topic.
Yeah.
I'll let
So we're coming up on Christmas. Everyone's like looking through the off-road parts catalog, and we already did an episode about like inexpensive Jeep mods or
Mhm.
off-road mods, right? So now we're going to do another episode about mods we've done or maybe mods that we've seen done that we regret or that
Right.
perhaps the person who did it regretted.
Correct.
Because I mean, open up any Quadratech or Northridge or whatever catalog, and there's a million things that you can pick from. If you don't know what you're getting into, it might look really cool, might like, oh wow, that looks really useful, and then you do it and you're like, wow,
That
that's
was
a
a waste of money.
tremendous waste of
Yeah.
money, right?
Yep.
So we thought we'd do an episode about that, about things that we've done over the years that maybe we regret. And
Or
I thought I would start with some generalizations, right? First of all, watch out for good deals. Sometimes good deals are just that, they're good deals, but sometimes they're also like things that nobody wanted that they're trying to get rid of,
mhm.
things that didn't work right that they're trying to get rid of, right? And this goes for anything, not just Jeep mods or not just off-road
This is life. All
modifications, right?
all
This is
products. Yeah.
in general. If you see something in the discount bin, there's a reason it's there.
Right.
Right? So just keep that in mind. There's also if the price, so if I don't know, let's pick bumpers because I'm going to pick on bumpers because bumpers are a thing that everyone's like, they want a really cool, flashy looking bumper. And Tammy, I think you have a story about bumpers in general.
Mhm.
But you look on Amazon and then you look at like Genrite or some other higher dollar brand, right? And you're like, boy, these bumpers look really similar. Why is the one on Amazon $600 cheaper? I'll buy that one. And then you buy it, and then you realize that it's made out of like tinfoil
Yep.
and covered in, I don't know, nail polish, right?
Yep.
And it's just not what you thought it was. So, this is just general advice I would say for anything. You get what you pay for, right? Sometimes you can find an amazing deal on quality stuff. Most of the time, there's a reason it's cheap, right? So let's just keep that in mind.
And a lot of those places aren't designing these aftermarket parts for what they should be designed for. Like at TNT Customs, they design that stuff, and I'm sure there's lots of other aftermarket parts that aren't, selling tons of stuff. They're designing this stuff for breakover angle and,
Yeah.
for off-roading, for rock crawling and, that type of thing. And some of these other places, they're just, putting stuff together without really a whole lot of thought in mind to how it's going to perform off-road.
Not to mention things like winch mounts and
Correct.
recovery points. Like if there's one thing you don't want to have fail, it's those two things.
Correct. And by
Um,
the way, if you have a Jeep Gladiator, you need to read the fine print, because if you put an aftermarket bumper on that, and then you know how typically the winches sit right on top of that,
mhm.
in the Gladiator, I think it's the diesel Gladiator, you cannot block the flow of air in that radiator or it's going to void your warranty.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to, yeah, only the diesel, I thought so. So you need to make sure that if you're going to get an aftermarket bumper and put a winch in that diesel Gladiator, you need to find a bumper that lowers the winch mounting. And
And
TNT
that's
has one of those, by the way.
there you go.
So
Well, when I did the one on the JK, I was able to sink the winch in between the frame rails. You actually can't
mhm,
even see the winch,
right,
other than the fair lead and the
right.
the cable that sticks out the front of the bumper. It's actually completely hidden. I don't know if I could have done that with a different model winch than the one I had because I built the bumper specifically for that winch because I
Right.
had the winch in hand when I built it. But yeah, you've seen tall winches like the Warren 8274, like iconic, historic, like amazing winch, but it sits like a foot high off the front bumper, and that blocks a whole lot of airflow into your radiator. That can be a problem on any Jeep, any rig in general.
Right.
But I didn't know that it actually voided the warranty on the diesel
On the
Gladiator.
Yeah, so yeah, all you Gladiator diesel guys out there, be careful. Um,
Yeah. So that actually brings up a good point that I wanted to touch on was think about what you want your rig to do before you start throwing parts at it.
correct.
If you want to overland versus if you want to rock crawl, two completely different builds. Some parts
Correct.
are interchangeable, a lot of them aren't, right?
Yep.
Like you might not need the high clearance bumper if you're going to overland. Think about where you want to overland. If you're
Right.
not going to be doing crazy rock crawly stuff while you're overlanding, which I don't know, do overlanders rock crawl? I don't think they do.
Not
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 by
not
choice.
not like I mean, I guess if you're a mix of
I guess
both,
it
but
depends on the
typically,
Rocklander. Isn't that the
yeah,
the word people have come up with for
Rocklanders,
this?
there you go.
Rocklanders.
Yeah, but
Um,
typically not.
but you may have different thoughts, right? Like maybe you want your bumper to be able to hold water, right? Maybe you want like a water bladder in the thing or an air tank or something, right? Whereas a rock crawler would be like, no, I want the bumper to get the hell out of my way.
Correct. Correct.
So yeah, not intentionally. Yeah. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, and you need to really, like, for me, the first step before you buy anything is find out what you like doing. And your vehicles are capable of, starting out slow and just figuring out, yeah, I really like mudding. Or you go mudding and you're like, yeah, no, all your friends mud and you're like, oh yeah, no, I don't like doing that. And then you find out you like rock crawling, or you
Yeah.
don't like rock crawling and you like overlanding. So you just gotta like figure out what you like to do first and then go from there
Yeah.
before you start putting money into things that later down the road you're like, oh, I just spent $1,500 on this bumper and it's not going to work for me because I need more of a rock crawling one to
Right.
make it shorter or skinnier or whatever.
Right. And then one more piece of general advice before we move into specifics between myself and Tammy. And that is, and this is going to sound really ironic considering that we are a podcast giving advice through the
Right.
internet, but beware of internet advice. I don't know how many times I've gone on to a message forum, a Facebook group, a whatever, and someone's like, "How should I build my rig?" And everybody throws millions of dollars that they
Hmm.
don't have to pay for at this guy's question, right?
Right.
And what that person should really do is step back and say, "What am I going to do with it?" And I've seen this tone change over the years because enough people have spotted it and said, "Hold on, what do you want to do with it?" Right? And now
Correct.
I see a lot more threads where the first response is, "What do you want to do with it?" Right? Where it used to be, "Oh, well, I built mine this way, so you should build it exactly the same way because I'm right." Well,
Correct.
maybe you're doing something totally different than what I want to do,
Right.
So just beware, right? People on the internet are not financing your rig. You are.
That'd be nice if they were.
Yeah, right. So just keep that in mind. All right, so that's my generalizations. Did you want to?
Well, I'm just gonna like bounce off of what you talk about, and then, um, well, for I guess maybe I'll just share a quick story. I did a. I'm trying to find where I put it. I did a blog post and I did a video on what not to buy for your Jeep, and I just want people to some people took offense to it because I was kind of trying to be funny but yet not funny. And the things I talked about were the angry grill, the eyelashes, those fancy wheels.
I'm right there with
Um,
you, Tammy.
right. And
I'm
somebody
I'm
took
a
a
very accepting person when it comes to
right,
like you build your Jeep the way you want to build it, but
right.
I hate angry grills. I just
No,
hate
I
them.
know. But I think, and some people take offense to that and they're like, well, I like my mall crawler and that's okay. But we're going to make, you know, we do it in love. However,
Do we? When it comes to angry grills, do we?
however, when you do make mods to your Jeep, that's one thing you need to be aware of. There's a huge community out there. And there are some people who have strong feelings about those mall crawly type of mods. So
That
just
is true.
be, and if you want to do it, fine, and just own it. But just understand there are people out there who are going to tease you.
Well, it comes back to exactly what I said before. What are you building your rig for?
Right.
Maybe you're not building for overlanding or rock crawling. You're building because you want a really cool looking rig.
Hmm.
That's valid, right?
Right.
I mean,
Y-
it might be a tremendous waste, quote unquote, waste to folks like me, or maybe even Tammy, or other people in the off road community that are like, oh man, that thing could be so much better if you did this, that, or that. But maybe you don't want that. Maybe
Right.
you just want to cart your kids to the mall. Maybe you just want to commute to work. That's your choice.
Right. But
But
just
yes,
understand you're
you
going to
could get
get
ridiculed.
razzed.
You could
Yes.
get ridiculed for it.
So I just be careful when you buy those kind of things for your rig. All right.
Mike in chat says he's not a fan of either. I assume he means the
Yeah.
eyelashes or the angry grill.
Right.
But I'll take an angry grill over a grumper any day.
I just feel like the 7 slots is iconic to
Yeah.
Jeeps, and you gotta leave that with the Jeeps.
Yeah. Now some of them don't get rid of the 7 slots. They just add the misshapen
Yeah.
headlights, which may be illegal in your state, by the way. Check into that. But yeah, the ones that change to like that Vader grill that has the like
Yeah.
87 slots across the front. I never really dug that. But
Yeah.
again, right, it's not my Jeep. I'm
Yep.
trying not
Yep.
to judge people, but it's really hard.
Yes. We have to love all off-roaders.
Yeah, Yeah.
You know, and any kind of, you know, because we all have the same passion of we love our vehicles, whether it's the Tacoma,
Right.
the Land Cruiser, the Hummer. I mean, I've been on some trail rides where there's been Hummers, so we all.
I do feel like there are very few other vehicle communities that are so passionate about the way the grill looks. Because it's actually a really common mod in other models,
Mhm. Right,
right?
right.
I remember when I was driving that I had an S10 Blazer when I first got into the off-road scene, and there were like 100 different grills available for it, and no one cared if you changed it.
Mhm.
It's like you know you do you, whatever, right? Um, so yeah, in the Jeep world, for whatever reason, that's just like no, you can't get rid of the slots. Maybe I need to calm down on that.
To each his own, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. So, but ducks. Oh.
Oh,
Anyway,
Jeep ducks, ducking.
yeah,
We could do a whole podcast on that.
on the ducks.
Yeah, or not.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. On the first Jeep I ever built, it was a 1990 YJ. I did a lot of like just I didn't know what I was doing yet, so I put on a lot of stuff that like looked like interesting ideas. And the stuff that I come back to, I always categorize all these things as gimmicky mods.
Mhm.
Things that are like, oh, this will get you a couple inches more flex, or this will, whatever, do that. This will do that. Um, you have to question how functional they are, right? And the things that come to mind are in the leaf spring days, there were two things. I didn't do both of these, but I did one of them. One of them was called the revolver shackle. And anyone who's been around any leaf spring vehicle from like a decade or more ago, they'll remember these things. And so with a leaf sprung vehicle, the leaf spring is attached to a solid point at one end of the leaf, and at the other end there's a shackle that swings back and forth as the leaf expands and contracts, right?
Mhm.
Because it has to have that swing at one end. The revolver shackle basically took that one shackle that was like static from the frame to the leaf spring and put a joint in the middle of it that would sit at rest at like a V shape. And then when the suspension would droop, the shackle would open up, giving you more suspension flex.
Mhm.
The problem with those was they gave you some weird on road characteristics. I never noticed those. I owned these for quite a while. I never noticed any on road characteristics that were bad. But the problem was when it would droop like that, it actually messed with the amount of force that was actually going to whatever tire was drooping. So yes, you got like crazy extra flex out of it, but it wasn't all that useful because the tire didn't have much weight on it when it got to the ground, right? So that was a thing that I had spent money on, probably shouldn't have, right? And then there was another similar one. I never bought these, but they were called Z boxes. They did the same thing, but they were at the frame end where they was supposed to be static, and it would basically be like your spring hanger had a Z in it that it could expand like an accordion away from the frame, and that was almost worse, probably
Huh.
worse than the revolver shackle.
Do they still do those now? Do
I have no
people?
idea.
Uh-huh.
Leaf springs aren't nearly as popular as they used to be in
Right.
about any off-roading scene. At least none that I've come across. Usually, when you've got a leaf sprung vehicle, the first mod everybody wants to do is link it and coil it, and people just aren't doing leaf springs as much anymore.
Right.
It used to be like for heavy duty loads, you'd still go with a leaf spring, but those aren't usually off-road vehicles. Those are more like tow rigs. And in that case, you wouldn't want to do something like this because, why would
Like
you?
like the Ford 2500, 3500. Is that what you mean? Those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and even those, I think they're coil in the front now. They might still be leaf in the rear just
Mhm.
because where all the hauling capacity is. But again,
Right.
like people aren't building those for flex. Maybe
Right.
some people are, but they aren't commonly building them for flex. And if they are, they're probably doing four-link suspensions.
Right.
So, but anyway, those are some that I regret. And then there was a similar thing that was used to be called either three-quarter elliptical or buggy springs, which was the same concept, except instead of having a shackle, you had another spring at the frame side. and it's going to be really difficult to explain in a in a podcast. But where the shackle end was supposed to be, instead of being attached to the frame, it was attached to this other spring. And when the suspension would droop, that spring could then droop as well. It's another leaf spring, right?
Mhm.
And I did that for years on my YJ. That one I actually didn't hate, but a lot of people were like, "Why do that?" Because it had a lot of the same problems that the old revolver shackles did. And I also had a problem where they kept like inverting on me whenever I'd hit a big enough bump, and that got me a lot of flack from all the people that I
Oh,
wheeled with.
right.
So I kind of regretted doing those.
So I noticed in your list you talked about cheap bumpers. We were talking about those. And that's one of the things that I wanted to point out is if you can, when you order parts, I know when we ship parts, we typically ship them bare metal.
Hmm.
And at the end of the shipment, it's up to you to go get it powder coated or whatever you want to do. But my bumpers and my sliders all came to me powder coated. And I remember folks telling me, "Oh no, that's not good. They're gonna start rusting on you." And they did, and they're horrible. And one thing I have learned working at TNT, we do a lot of our own powder coating. We also just powder coat other people's stuff like handrails, and some guy just brought in his own homemade bumpers. And it's very, very, very important to have this metal cleaned before it's powder coated. And I don't think these companies that do mass powder coatings is doing it, keeping the metal clean before they powder coat it. Or
Yeah.
even when you powder coat it, like my front bumpers, they come to like a triangle point. And
Hmm.
inside your bumper is this triangle point, and these powder coating guns have a hard time getting into those spots. So it's not all fully powder coated. And even where the welds are, you have to look really good at these welds to make sure all that powder coating is attaching to that metal.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going to start getting rust, and the rust, especially in Maryland where I was, there was so much salt, and that salt just started eating away, and it gets underneath your powder coat and you can see it. And I tried doing do it yourself tricks by using ASPHO and Corosil, and ASPHO is a marine grade um, what do you call it, rust and hip remover.
Hmm.
And all that stuff worked for a bit, but I really should have just taken those bumpers off and sandblasted them and started over, or just thrown them out and got new bumpers. But that's one thing. If you are going to order some aftermarket parts, I would highly recommend, especially if they're bigger, to get them shipped to you bare metal. Find somebody in your area who knows what they're doing when it comes to powder coating, and or just clean the metal yourself really good. And just if you're going to be out on the rocks and getting scrapes and scratches, just do it yourself with a rattle
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to worry.
What I do with any parts that I create myself that are going to be anywhere near like contact,
Mm-hmm.
I use a Rust-Oleum hammered finish
Yep.
paint. And this stuff, if you get it a couple coats, right? If you just do it with one coat, it's not going to hold up. But if you do 2 or 3 coats of this stuff, it really gets like this thick finish to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still going to scratch. It's still going to chip off if you hit it. But it's really easy to sand that spot and then paint it.
Correct.
Whereas with powder coating, once it's scratched, I don't really know what the best way to touch that up is. Maybe it's to clean the whole bumper and re-powder coat it.
Yeah,
That
I
sounds
think
like a
you.
heck of an undertaking.
Yeah,
Is there a way to touch that up? I don't know.
I don't think there really is. I think you just have to start all over, because once that rust gets underneath that powder coat, you can't see
Yeah.
where it's rusting, and by the time you figure it out, it's too late.
Now, powder coat is like baked on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Goes in like an oven. So
Yep.
it's supposed to
At
be
about
a more durable finish than
it
paint, than just
is.
spray paint.
And if you're overlanding, sure, no
Yeah.
problem. But if you're doing serious rock crawling, you may want to think twice about that.
Or if it's a
Um,
thing that you're pretty sure isn't going to contact stuff, like a roof rack
right,
or the mount for your lights or whatever,
right,
right? Like sure, powder coat that stuff.
right.
But yeah, I
Um,
feel like for bumpers and things that you know are going to contact things that are designed to contact things,
mhm.
powder coating is just kind of, it might look great the day you get it, but the first time you scratch it, it's going to be a pain in the butt.
And the first time you do any of that, even if it is powder coated, find out the best way to take care of it before it gets too bad. And if you have a vehicle that hasn't started rusting yet, or you buy a brand new vehicle, I highly, highly recommend. I know back in the day when I was still in Maryland, people said you should use fluid film. You can get the
Hmm.
fluid filled in the cans. And that works great and everything. But they do have professional products, which we undercoating products that we do at the shop. And it's a really good idea to get ahead of that game before the rust starts getting, especially if you're in the salt belt. Um, that's the one thing, the one main thing I think would have done over is found a different way to have bumpers that weren't going to rust. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, so my funds were limited. And I know, some of these really good high quality bumpers that are made here in America, they can be pretty pricey.
Hmm.
So if you don't have a lot of money and you do need like some sort of bumper that's going to give you those tow points or a spot for your winch, just understand eventually they're probably going to start giving you problems if you don't take care of them. I just know that the Chinesium type bumpers, the cheaper ones, are prone to
Yeah.
rust.
There was on that first Jeep I was talking about, there was a company that was really popular at the time called Steel Horse. And it was basically like the Chinesium cheap brand of the era, right? Um, and I had a bunch of stuff on that first Jeep from Steel Horse, and
Hmm.
Steel Horse had a reputation for being more like a rusty horse
Right. That's
because
funny.
you'd get stuff from them, and Quadratech was good at selling these things because that was where I got most of them. Again, they were just like a budget brand, right?
Right.
I don't blame Quadratech for this, but you'd get them, and no matter how well they were packaged, there was always little spots where the powder coating had
Hmm.
already started to rub bare, just in shipping, right?
Correct.
Because whatever they used to powder coat them was just not up to up to par,
Right.
and it was just junk. The stuff was junk. They had a
Yeah.
handful of products that were good enough, right? Like surprisingly, their recovery hooks were good. People would buy those, but everything else they made was just crap. They would just
Hmm.
rust and fall off.
So yeah, it all depends on, your budget and what you're going to do, but I
Yeah.
think for everything else that I have put on my Jeep, um I besides the rust, I've been very pleased with everything I've picked. I honestly I can't think of anything that I haven't liked.
There's I can't think of anything that's on the LJ that I absolutely like. I wish I'd never bought this.
Hmm.
Um, but this is like 4 Jeeps in for me, right? I've had a lot of trial and error over the years. So on the first couple of Jeeps that I've done, there were absolutely things where I
Right.
put in the Jeep and it's just like this is not useful or it's not the quality I thought it was or whatever. Trying to think of exact examples of those things. Some of them won't be relevant anymore. Things like those 3/4 elliptical buggy springs.
Right.
I don't think anyone is
Right.
doing that anymore, right? So it's hard to say don't do that because no one would even think of it.
I will say I do have I was sponsored by Quadratech when I went on my cross country adventure, and they did give me like they were $700 headlights.
Mm,
And I was like, "Oh, yes, these are gonna be really good." And to be honest with you, before that, Ox Beam headlights, they had the Cree headlights, and they were like $99 headlights, and they wanted me to test them out. And those were the best headlights for me because they were so bright and I could see. The headlights that I have now, I have to drive at night with my high beams on because and maybe it's because I'm older and I just can't see at night. I don't know. But
it's not the headlights, Tammy.
and maybe it's not the headlights, maybe it's me. I don't know. But I really loved those ox beam headlights, and they looked like jewels on my Jeep. So headlights are another thing that you have to be very careful of.
Absolutely. I have headlights on mine that came from All Terrain Concepts. It
Mhm.
was one of these cases where I got into a an ambassadors program with them, and I didn't get them free. I got them at a discount, and they have been really good headlights. Like I have no problem keeping their logo on my Jeep because they're pretty good headlights. I like them. Um, but I've heard of a lot of cases where people have gotten LED headlights, and there was actually,
The
or
flicker?
well, not just the flicker, because I know that is a thing, especially on the JKs.
Yeah.
The LJ doesn't have that problem, at least not that I've seen. But a lot of LED headlight manufacturers, they'll take a round light that was meant to be bumper mounted, and they're just like, oh, it's the right size. It'll fit in the round slot
Mhm.
in a Jeep, and they'll just modify the mounting bracket, and they're like, here you go. It's not a headlight. It's not meant to be a headlight.
Right.
Right? It fits, so they're selling it as a headlight, right? And some people accused All Terrain Concepts of doing the same thing. Although these headlights have a high and low beam, they have a turn signal marker built into them. I think they were designed from day one to be a headlight, not an off-road
Mhm.
light. But there are some that are doing that, right? And you can tell because on the side of the housing, there's a screw mount on the side that are meant to go in like a bracket that's meant to hold it up, right? A headlight won't have that, right? So a lot of
Correct.
people say that that's a good way to identify. But anyway, headlights are a thing that you're going to want to look at reviews
Oh,
on
yes, for sure.
be- because the JK
The
and
flicker thing
I don't
is
know about
oh,
the JL, not just the flicker, but the factory headlights are like abysmal. People hate them.
yeah,
The
they
incandescent lights that
yeah.
came with them. So everyone's really quick to want to replace headlights, but headlights are so freaking expensive. The LED
Yes.
headlights, right? So
And
they're
some
looking
of
for
them,
bargains, and
yeah, and
some of those bargains are worse than factory.
right. I was just gonna say they are. And the factory plug and the aftermarket, they say plug and play. And that's where the flicker starts coming in because the plugs are not, they have to be super precise. You got people out there that are zip tying these plugs together. They're wrapping electrical tape and zip tying it, and the flicker still happens. It was awful for me. I got pulled over. I got a ticket. And
You
finally, I
got a
got to
ticket for the flicker? That's how bad the flicker was.
no, the flicker, or it would just flick off and I wouldn't know it would
Oh,
go off and then it would come back on. As soon as the
okay.
cop pulled away, it would come back on. But I got a
You're like, "No,
ticket.
no, look, it's back."
I know. I got a ticket in Colorado and I'm like, enough. I had gotten pulled over 3 times because my headlights would go out and I flip-flopped them. I even had Adrenaline Off-Road in Maryland switch out the factory plug because I was thinking that's what it was. I tested it was major scientific test. And I finally hardwired them straight. I put the wires together, no more plug and no more flicker. No more
Yeah,
one goes off, one goes on. But yeah, headlights can be, you got to know what you're buying.
yeah, yeah. Well, that sounds like it was a problem with the plug then. If
That's
you
what I
hardwired
thought.
them, it fixed it.
Yeah, it's
Said you switched them and it still didn't.
the ox beam headlights was the flicker and they would go off and on. The Quadratech headlights did the exact same thing. They went off and
Huh,
on. I
that's
flip
interesting.
flopped them into the different from the passenger to the drivers. I switched plugs. I zip tied them. I taped them. So I finally just hardwired them. But it's something to do with the aftermarket plug and the factory plug don't mesh in these two particular ones. And other
Hmm.
people have had the same problem and said they just finally hardwired them. So
I got some secondhand LED headlights for the JK, and they have been perfect. I don't even know what brand they are.
no, there you go.
A friend of mine, just for whatever reason, he wanted to switch back to his halogens. I have no idea why. He said he didn't like the look of them. Whatever. So I figured
There
I'd
you
try them
go.
out, and they've been great. She loves them. They
Yep.
have a colored ring around the outside. She gets to set the color. So whatever. To each their own, I guess.
Yep. Well, just folks, make sure you do your research and
Yeah,
figure out what you want to do with your off-road rig first.
Yeah. I guess the biggest advice I can give is one, make sure you know what you want to do with your rig before you start throwing money at it. And two, check reviews because people in the off-road industry are very outspoken. If a
Mhm.
product is crap, they will say so. If a product is
Mhm.
good, they'll probably also call it crap for some reason. I had someone telling me that Tom Woods had the worst customer service in the world. I'm like, what?
No,
Like, what?
that's
What Tom
no.
Woods are you working with?
I know. That is
But
so
I heard it from more than one person, so it kind of makes me wonder. But I had a great experience with them. I put the Tom
yeah,
Woods in the JK,
yeah,
and
everyone I've ever known works
yeah,
with.
I had a couple questions, and I wrote them because I wasn't sure if I needed a longer one or not for such a small lift, and they were super patient with all the questions and whatever. And yeah, they were great. So I don't know.
Maybe the person who was doing this bad review, maybe they need to look at themselves.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Just possibility. All right. Don't forget, you can find us at offroadersinsiders.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and all the places where podcasts can be downloaded. Correct,
Wherever
Nate? Yep.
wherever you find podcasts,
Yep.
unless you can't find us there, and then you should look somewhere else.
Yes. So,
Because I don't know where you're looking.
right. And you can watch us every other Monday. You can watch us live.
Yeah,
We stream on YouTube. Join us. And we have a chat room, and you can
yeah,
chit chat with us and the
yeah.
others that are in the chat room.
Got a couple folks live with us
Yeah.
today, chatting back and forth. Thank you for the relatively active chat tonight. We've had a couple
Yeah.
comments.
Yep.
We've mentioned a few of them. So yeah, cool. Thank you guys for joining us, videos and Mike. And maybe I don't know if anybody else is there waiting. Give us a shout out. Say hi.
So we have a couple of news items. The first two are yours that you've pulled over. I haven't even looked at them yet. If you want to.
Videos just brought up a good point. Is our next show New Year's Day?
No,
It's not. It's a Monday.
it is a Monday. We talked about this. I won't be in town.
You won't be in town. Okay, so no, not January 1st. We're going to find some other date that we haven't decided on yet. Probably the following Monday.
And just start every other that.
Yeah, we'll just start fresh next year on not the first.
We'll do the second and the fourth.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Anyway, news. I should probably open these things up so I can
Yeah.
remember what I put in here.
I think mine is
Oh!
so cool.
This first one showed up. It's from Auto Evolution, and it's less news, and it's more about this couple that built a Dodge Sprinter, right? Based overland van. I just thought it was neat. If you read through, they go over a lot of mods and stuff they did to this van. And if you look at the pictures from the inside, they did a beautiful job on turning this thing into basically a house on wheels is the best way I can describe this. There's like wood countertops and a big old bed and a rollout theater that they can like sit and watch movies. And on top, there are, I think they said it's like 400 amp hour battery. And I'm looking for the thing about the solar panels. The whole roof is solar panels and it powers a battery that's on board with an inverter and whatnot. So they get power from the sun instead of from the vehicle. And I just think it's a really neat looking build. So, go check it out. Pretty cool.
So I was on Twitter this morning and I came across this story.
Wait.
Oh, you gonna go?
Twitter doesn't exist.
Oh, X.
It's X.
Sorry.
Elon said it's X.
I love it. I love Elon.
What? Sorry.
Yeah, he just.
I have to leave. Goodbye.
Well, he told Disney to go. I'm like, yeah. So when he did that, I'm like, yeah.
We'll agree to disagree on Elon Musk. He may have some finer points.
Yeah.
But on the whole, he's an insane idiot billionaire, if you ask me. But anyway.
He shared a picture where the Cybertruck is in Wyoming. And I'm like, ooh, I wonder if he's in Wyoming. And my son's like, Mom, he's not in Wyoming. He's in Italy. Somebody else has a Cybertruck. Get over it. You are not going to, Elon Musk is not going to sweep you off your feet. and buy you all the Jeeps you want. So, um, anyway, as you know, my son is a Tesla owner, and
Hmm.
I think he has the Model Y. But
Okay.
anyway, so there's this story where the Tesla Model Y, which is just their little, it's the car, it's not the Cybertruck, it's just a car.
Yeah. Are they
It,
all-wheel drive at least?
I don't, I'm, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have motors on, they don't have an
I
engine.
guess that makes sense.
They have
Yeah.
motors. I think it's just three motors, two in the front wheels and one in the back, or vice versa. I can't remember. Anyway, so Teslas are known to win drag races. Teslas can pretty much beat
Yeah.
any vehicle in a drag race.
Well, an electric motor gets instant torque, right? So they in a traditionally gasoline powered class, they will always wipe the floor. Maybe not
Mhm.
always. They will have a very good chance of wiping the floor with a gasoline powered vehicle, simply because of how quickly they can get power to those wheels.
So the Tesla was in a race on the
Videos says
sand
also
dunes.
known Videos says also known to burn to the ground.
Well, Jeeps do that too.
Yeah, I guess
So,
that's true.
you know, that's the Renegade.
Yeah.
So it'll be in the show notes. There's a video of the Tesla on, I don't know where exactly it is, the sand dunes.
Some sand dune somewhere, yeah.
It beat a Jeep Wrangler up by miles up this sand dune, and the Jeep couldn't go anymore, and the Tesla Y just kept going.
Yep, just zip right up the sand dune. I thought it
Yeah.
was pretty cool. And I mean, just imagine being that Jeep owner, or I think the other one might have
Oh,
been
was
the
it?
article called them both Jeeps, but I think the second vehicle was like an H3 or something. It's hard to
Yeah,
tell from the angle they're at, but it didn't look like a
right.
Jeep.
Um, and I did see video of the Cybertruck being pulled out by a Ford truck, being winched out.
The one with the Christmas tree in the back?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So what's interesting is Jason, who helps design the products, he's Bob and Mary's son, where I work at TNT. He said it's because like our Rubicons or our Jeeps, the torque on them is a slow, wheel spin to give you torque to like
Yeah.
pull the Jeep.
Yeah.
Well, on the Cybertruck, because like what you were saying, because they're so fast and the motors are so fast, the wheels just spin really fast. They're not getting that slow torque
Mm.
to grab.
Well,
I'm probably
you'd
not
think.
explaining it very good, but that's how I
No, so this is exactly this is why when you're on the trail, you put it in 4 low. Because all that gear reduction means that the torque to the wheels and the speed at which those wheels are spinning is under much more control, right?
right,
So if you had it in 4 high, in order to get those wheels moving, you'd have to put a lot more RPMs behind it, and
right.
that makes the wheels spin a lot faster. I shouldn't say more RPMs. I guess it is lower. Anyway, my point is that there's less control to the wheels
Right.
because they want to spin faster, right?
And you could see it in the Cybertruck where they were just like no, you need to.
You would think that the Cybertruck would have some sort of traction control to control that then.
And maybe the person who was driving it didn't know that. I don't know, but
Yeah.
maybe Elon Musk is listening and will
Oh yeah.
hire me on as an advisor for the
There you go.
Cybertruck
There you go.
because I'm so knowledgeable in off-roading.
So if you put its abysmal looks aside,
Uh-huh.
the Cybertruck's not a crazy it's not a platform that I would immediately dismiss. It has a crazy high tow rating. It has a lot of neat little doodads. It has a lot of technology in it that I don't necessarily want to bore the podcast with, but has the potential to change the automotive industry,
Mhm.
right? Because of the way that doodads in current vehicles communicate is very archaic. And the way the Cybertruck is doing it is over a standard called Ethernet, which maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't. But apparently, all the pieces and sensors and whatever inside of the Cybertruck just use Ethernet to talk to each other, which is an accepted standard that computers talk to each other over, right? And I think that's actually kind of cool that they went and rethought that, because the old CAN bus stuff is terrible when it comes to a lot of things. Namely, if you plug any device into the CAN bus, it can talk to everything on the CAN bus, which is cool if you want to modify your vehicle, but it's really bad if someone gets into the infotainment system on your car. They can do things like control your throttle, control your brakes, and turn off your car,
And you don't
turn
want that.
on your car, right?
Yeah.
Unlock the doors. Bad stuff.
Correct.
There was a story a couple years ago about, I think it was the Jeep Grand Cherokee, that people were remotely taking the thing over while it was driving,
Oh
right?
my
And
goodness.
they could do things like make it speed up and slow down and whatever. I
That's
don't
not
think it
good.
ever hit the public. Like, I don't think it ever got to the point where people were exploiting this and causing accidents. But a security researcher was able to do it, and they told Jeep about it so they could fix it. But yeah, crazy stuff.
Yep.
Anyway, that was totally a rabbit trail. Sorry about that. Cherokee KL, that's possible. Videos just said in the chat. Might have been the Cherokee KL. This was like 2017, 2018, if I'm remembering
Right.
correctly. Anyway,
Do you have one more?
I
One
do.
more?
Let me get this is actually also in the trend of electric vehicles, except this is electric dirt bikes. This is a French company, has been working on and has now released electric dirt bikes. And I think this is actually kind of neat because electric vehicles are really complicated and they get a lot of flack, but there's a lot of things going on there. Electric dirt bikes seems like a much lower bar to sort of start trying to perfect this kind of technology in the off-road world. So imagine, excuse me, imagine like electric dirt bikes, electric four-wheelers, electric UTVs, right? Like this is lower stakes stuff that I think could be kind of cool for them to work out the kinks for electric vehicles in general, right? Let me find the name of this company because I feel like I should at least mention who they are. Electric Motion, I guess that's their name, unveils the feature-packed Escape X off-road electric dirt bike. They like the letter X too, just like Elon.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's favorite letter.
You know, X is a cool letter. I don't know if
Yep.
I would have renamed my very identifiable social network X.
X. Yeah.
But, you know, whatever. I'm not a billionaire.
He does have some weird names for his kids too.
Yeah, all like 23 of them.
I think it's 10, but you could be right. I don't know.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Amongst a lot of different women.
He's going to try to repopulate the world.
Yeah, he's going to load up all of his kids onto a spaceship when the
they're going to go
Earth is finally destroyed. They're going to recolonize the
Mars.
They're going to take the human race with them. Anyway, I've got opinions about Elon Musk that are apparently different than yours.
Yes. Well, I like him for different reasons. I don't really follow him that much, but
yeah, working in the tech industry, I have a whole different view of Elon Musk than I think the average person does.
He is has Asperger's apparently too, so
It explains a lot.
Yeah, he's a little out there.
And I'll say this from being in the industry that I'm in, there's a lot of very brilliant people that also fall on the autism and Asperger's spectrum.
Totally agree. And that's why they're so smart, because their brain, when my son was in 4th grade, he said, "Mom, there are bridges in my brain to get to certain things." And all of our brains, like for me to read, there's just one bridge I have to go over to be able to read. Well, Michael, he can't read. I mean, he can read now, but he had a really hard time of it. He's dyslexic, but when he was in 4th grade, he said for him to be able to read, his brain has to go over all these other different bridges to get. I just go from point A to B. He has to go from A all the way through G, F, Q to B to get, it's just because their brains are just wired differently and they can see things that we can't. They did a study with dyslexic architects and regular architects, and they laid these blueprints out that had all these little things that were wrong. The dyslexic people picked them up just like that. Everyone else, it took them a while. So, I mean, we're all different. We're all different.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's people who are socially different get a lot harder what's the word I'm looking for? It's a lot harder for them to just like get through life,
Yeah,
even though they're better at certain things than we are.
because they're
I shouldn't say
socially
we. They're better at certain things than people who are socially adept are,
correct.
right?
Yep.
And then there's some people that can kind of bridge that, and then there's other people that are like, oh, all I want to do is make fun of that person, right?
Yep.
And it's I've got opinions on that too, but I don't want to go too far.
I know. We keep getting off topic here.
Yeah, yeah. But like when I was a kid in the 80s, there was like they weren't identifying kids who were autistic or kids
Mhm.
who had ADD or whatever. They were just quote unquote bad kids or
Correct.
bad students, right?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that if I were 20 years younger, I would have been identified as like maybe an autistic kid. Maybe
Mhm.
not autistic. Autistic's not the word I'm looking. ADHD kid.
Mhm.
Um, but I managed to work through it. I was just a terrible student.
And usually smart people are. Well, they're bored. They're just
That's
bored.
That is true. But a lot of
Yep.
very brilliant people that I have worked with are like not the sort of people that you'd ever expect to meet at a party because they're just they couldn't function in that world. But
Yep.
put them in their element and they are like complete
Yep.
savant at it. It's
Yep.
amazing. So yeah, I guess all that to say, accept people the way they are. Accept them
Correct.
for what they're good at. Don't worry if they can make good jokes at parties because that doesn't really matter.
No.
Anyway. Okay, that's enough of a
Next.
rant. We're over by 10
next-
minutes.
Oh, well,
We started 3 minutes late, so I guess
yeah,
it
I was going
works
to say
out.
the show timer shows we're at 107.
Yeah,
So next show, which will be in January, right?
somewhere. Probably, I guess if the
Yeah.
first is a Monday, then I guess that would make it the 7th
8th.
or the 8th.
The 8th, I
8th.
believe.
Math.
So we'll
Math
plan
is hard.
on January 8th because I will be out of town. I will be in Minnesota with my sisters. So we'll plan on January 8th. And
I see you've got 3 options here because you
yeah,
haven't decided. I
correct.
think what to expect when you lift your vehicle is probably
Yep.
a good option to go with next
That's a good
because
idea.
I've recently gone through that. I've gone through it many times with other vehicles, mainly on Jeeps, but maybe we can do some research and find for other off-road vehicles. Or maybe if you're listening and you have some wisdom, either share it with us at offroadinsiders@gmail.com, or if you're so inclined and want to be a guest on the show, let us know
Yeah.
sometime in the next 3 weeks.
Yep. We would love to have you on our show and talk about your Toyota
or whatever.
your
Yeah. Lifting IFS, that's a thing I don't have much or any experience with. I've seen people do it. I've seen people talk about it. I've seen a lot of people just rip out IFS and replace it with a solid axle. Videos mentions IFS.
Mhm.
IFS is a whole different beast. And they're so different. There's like drive on the road IFS, and then there's like Ultra 4 IFS. Totally different beasts, but still technically both IFS.
All right, everyone, have a wonderful Christmas.
Yes.
Stay safe on New Year's Eve.
It's like the end of this
Have a
week
good
already.
time. I know.
And then, you know what's awesome? Then it's after Christmas, it's adult Christmas, also known as income tax refund time.
Oh, yes. There you go.
Maybe we'll do a show on how to spend your income tax
Income tax.
refund.
There you go.
You remember that back in the day when the old the off-road magazines, every like March or April, they would have an episode, they would have an article specifically about how to spend everyone's average
income tax return.
They decided the average income tax refund was like $2,000 or something, and they're like, how to spend $2,000 on your vehicle. You gotta know your audience, I guess. Anyway.
Well, have a joyous Christmas. May Santa Claus be good to you. And for all of you out there doing Elf on the Shelf, it's only a couple more days left and you don't have to do it anymore.
Don't forget to move the elf.
Yeah. So
I have an appointment tonight to move elves.
Yeah.
They move by themselves.
Yeah.
It's totally magic.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we have one down in our front lobby. My Jeep's Halloween spider got a hold of the elf and wrapped it up in a web. That was pretty funny.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I get kind of creative with it. One time, one of the elves fell off a chandelier and had a cast on its arm the next morning.
Aww. That's pretty funny.
Anyway, they're only young for a couple years.
Yep. Well, with that, you all, Merry Christmas from
Yeah, I guess
Nate and
that's my
Tammy.
cue to go find the music. Where's the
Yeah.
music? Here it is. Okay.
Or we
So
could
yeah,
start singing. We
No, you
wish
don't want
you
me
a
to
Merry
sing.
Christmas.
You do not want me to sing. All right,
Yeah.
folks. So yeah, we'll see you next year. If you want to find the Off-Road Insiders podcast, check out wherever you normally download podcasts. Check out the YouTube channel. Check out offroadinsiders.com. If you can't figure out where to find us or how you want to find us, you can just listen to episodes right there if you want to. You can find me at swbcrawler.com and find Tammy at jeepmama.com. Any final words for the year, Tammy?
No, just have a great holiday.
That's good enough. I think we'll close with that.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great holiday, and we'll see you in 2024.